Hi, everybody. Happy 4th in advance. Welcome to 360, Worldview 360. Hi, Lena.
Hi, everyone in the chat. How exciting.
Is it cold where you are?
It is freezing. I've got my serious woolies on now.
Oh, I'm sending you warmth. So I have my blinds open so that I can get the light in, but of course that's going to make it really hot. So I have the air conditioner blasting just to counterbalance it.
Yes.
So I'm sending you some warmth.
Thank you. Some residual heat.
Yes, apparently a lot of the world has got a lot of residual heat that they could send you. Yeah. Pretty bad. But no, there's no such thing as global warming, of course.
No.
Hi, everybody. Welcome.
And the thing that concerns me too is whether it's the US or Europe is in the teeth of a very obvious heat wave, everyone starts talking about climate change. But as soon as it drops a few degrees, nothing happens again for another year and again,
Right.
We've got to start addressing this.
Well, we won't be addressing it in the US until you know who goes nowhere. So, I mean, there's that. But yeah, welcome. I want to just say too, not just to those of you who are live, and I'm delighted that you're here, we both are, but to those of you who watch in replay and who share and comment and all of that hype, we appreciate all of it. So Lena, here we are on the edge.
Here we are. And welcome to the Australian viewers who have popped in too. Thank you.
So any plans to pop over to the fair?
No, it's not top of my diary list. We've got to talk about the fair, Erica. Have you seen a worse attended event?
Well, not only is what is amusing is the juxtaposition of the sparseness of the attendance and the lies that come out of certain media outlets about it being wall-to-wall people.
And I just saw today, Fox News, shouldn't be Fox News, Fox had set itself up, with the plate glass windows looking out to the fair, and they've been at it how many days now with nobody there.
Right.
And the young Ducey and another anchor have said, this is humiliating, we're not doing it anymore. And they've moved them back to the studio as of today. They were supposed to be there for 2 weeks.
Good. Well, there is global warming, but I will say that Mother Nature still is on the side of righteousness because there is a heat wave to end all heat waves coming for that Washington area, temperatures in the hundreds. The events start in the morning on the 4th and go into the evening, and apparently the fireworks are not scheduled until 11 p.m. The space
is right. The children won't be able to see them all.
It's not trees. There's no trees or anything there. It is a big, wide open expanse. What does that mean? It means there's no shade. People will die of heat stroke. Well, they're not going to die of heat stroke. And why is that? Because they're not going.
Not coming. That's right.
So what's interesting is that expanse, that mall is in the summer a vibrant area. It's a great tourist area. It's usually crowded. Not only is it not crowded with the usual DC locals, it's not got tourists there. But of course, we don't like tourists anyway, since we're so xenophobic.
Yeah.
But as I said to you before we came on, I'm surprised that MAGA has not sort of loaded up their station wagons and Suburbans and trekked in a caravan to the mall. There's a reason. It's not the price. Well, it could be. No, there is the price of gas to consider. So that's a problem.
Yeah, and money generally. People haven't got a lot of money to.
That's right, and maybe that's all it is. But bottom line,
however,
nobody's there. Nobody's there.
Nobody's there.
The felon, instead of, I don't know, putting on a smile and enticing people to come, is mad that nobody's come. He's really angry. And that's a way to really get people to come out to the fair, is to, be angry that they're not there. So this is humiliation number one. I did on my channel, I did a look at his July, and I did it week by week. And I started with a tarot card, and then I drew 3 Lenormand clarifiers. And the first week was the 3 of Swords. So he will be suffering this week because of the humiliation. His peace thing is I mean, Israel just did a big strike, I think, on Lebanon, bomb strike. So that's not going anywhere. Nobody's going to his fair. We have the Supreme Court. Again, they did give him some things, which we can talk about.
They sure did.
But they also didn't give him certain other things.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about that in a minute when we talk about the 4th of July. So, but he is, he's not a happy camper. And I couldn't wish better for him.
Yeah, exactly. And they're running out of road to spin it because it's invisible. Short of doing AI crowds, I'm amazed they haven't been doing that. It's self-evident.
Right.
And so now it's like the scales are falling from people's eyes.
That's right.
And you were suggesting just before we came on, is it possible that this is an actual silent protest? Yeah, interesting question.
You know what I think? I've seen so much on social media of MAGA going and doing the mea culpa tour. Like, this is what I get. I shouldn't have done it. I own a construction company. There's no work. I think that they're having buyer's remorse. Yes. I think it is a protest, but I think equally it's because nobody has any money to trek across the country to go to a state fair where the ice cream is melted and where even Vanilla Ice, or whatever that guy's name is, Vanilla Ice and Brett Michaels, they canceled.
Yeah. And I think we have to take a moment to look at the actual content of the fair.
Right.
So what are people missing out on? And you'd have to say not a lot.
No.
Have you actually seen the state-by-state booths?
If you look at a booth, you will see, here's what I saw when I looked. I saw a booth set up. I saw a table. I saw a couple of chairs.
And that's it.
That's it.
I know, it's bizarre.
I mean, not even people in the chairs.
No, it's actually bizarre. So 7 states, I think, pulled out for a start. For your 250, I don't blame them. I'm just simply saying, for 7 states to pull out before it even started, then each state would have spent millions. This is what they do. They just flush money.
That's right.
Right? Because here, well, first of all, they are booths, right?
It's booths, yeah.
I was expecting something like the Venice Biennale. I don't know why, but where each country, or in this case, each state, would have a pavilion. Right. And being America, I would have thought it'd be crass and tacky and garish, but I would have thought it'd be big.
Well, I will say Americans do know how to put on state fairs. I mean, it is an American thing, and I've been to them in my life, and they can be very fun. They can be really good. Why wouldn't they have said, why didn't they say, we will sponsor each state to do an even bigger state fair than they normally would do in their own state?
Yeah.
Like, why would people go to DC? Because it's all about his self-aggrandizement. That's why. We know how to do fun state fairs. Are they a little corny and tacky? Well, yeah, but that's America. It's fine.
But
they're crowded. People go. We have one. Yeah. San Diego has one. Where I lived in New Jersey, the counties would have one. I mean, they exist, and they're fun, and they're well populated. So the fact that this is not is telling,
isn't it? But I couldn't actually believe the kitsch crap, forgive my language, that is there, like little inflatable peanuts for Georgia, I guess, or something.
Right,
Little 20-cent pens that you know are not going to write by the time you get home,
right,
with a cactus on the end.
right.
I mean, the poverty of cultural expression is, I think, what we should talk about here.
The food was overpriced. There was one station, it was called the hibachi station. So I thought, oh, this maybe is a tribute to the, Japanese American. No, you know what the food was? Hot dogs, French fries, nacho, no, Caesar wraps. Like,
Yeah, and that's
what's Japanese about any of that? Nothing.
yes,
It's
yes, yes.
tacky. They're tacky.
It's
It's
just shocking, but
embarrassing.
what it reveals is what because when conservatives particularly talk about America, they're talking about white America. They're talking about the Christian nationalists like each other, etc. What is their culture? What are their cultural markers? What do they share that's unique? What is it? And the answer is not much.
Well, the answer is there are things that they share. I wouldn't, but so the way that I always describe it is if you were going to go into a gallery, an art gallery,
Mhm,
you would see beautiful art on the wall. And you need the wall, of course, to hang the art. So, no
mhm,
shade to the wall. We need walls, that's important. But if you were to be asked, which would you rather be, the art or the wall? Most of us would say the art. Now,
mhm,
I'll give you, this is a way little personal history. When I was 11, I lived in New York. My parents ran a drug rehabilitation center in East Harlem, which was a very poor area, and we lived there. And we were an interracial family in an era when that was not a thing.
mm, mm,
My father was white, my mother was black. So the New York Times, I don't know why, came and did a story on my family.
mm.
So the reporter said, was asking each of us kids, there were three of us, uh, what did we consider ourselves? So I'm 11, right? So I said, I'm black. And then I said, and I'd rather be black than white. And I remember the reporter looked startled and she said, why? I said, well, if I were white, I'd have to look in the mirror and know what I was responsible for. And I would think that would be a horrible thing to have to be aware of. And then I said, I'm kind of like a black militant. And the reporter wrote,
Yeah.
but the reporter added, so she writes, I'm kind of like a black militant, she added shyly. Shyly. I did not add it shyly, in fact.
I'm sure you didn't.
I'm the same person I always was. I'm getting ready to be 70, but I mean, I would recognize my 11-year-old self if I met her on the street. I didn't
Yeah.
say it shyly, but for her, it was such an outrageous thing to say out of the mouth of a child that she had to
Mm.
mitigate it somehow.
Yes, that's
So
right. She had to manipulate how it was
that's right.
conveyed.
So why am I telling that story? Well, because think about this. What does it mean to be white, as you say? It means that your stock in trade has been excellence in cultural appropriation in the broadest sense. What else? Like, what else? You're the wall. You're not the art. You're the
Mm,
wall. And what I think that engenders in white people, and I'm not white, so I'm just imagining what
mm,
that must engender. I'm sitting with my 11-year-old self, and we're
mm,
engendering it together. What this would engender, I would think, would be a deep existential hole.
mm,
Um, I think that so that you have a lot of white Americans who look at people who are Black, for example, or Hispanic, for example, or who are Asian, for example, and they're in awe of our culture and our music and our food and our this and our that and our the other. They appropriate it, but it makes them angry because they're the wall. They can never be the art. They can never be the art until they turn around and say, one corner of the wall to the other corner of the wall. I'm in the corner here. My little desk is a corner. Who are we? Where do we come from? What is our history? What are our traditions? Are we Scotch American? Are we Anglo American? What is the Anglo part? What is the Scots part? And why is the whiteness so important to us when it doesn't seem like it's, the color thing is as pivotal to everybody else? Why is that the thing we hang our hat on?
Yes. And I think it's interesting because I just need a minute to develop this thought, because white Australia has the same issues. So if you say to someone anywhere in the world, what does Australia associate for you? What are your things? Kangaroos, right? Beaches, things like that. They'll list things, but these aren't cultural things. What makes Australia Australia is Aboriginal culture, which we have appropriated through the sound of the didgeridoo and other imagery and stuff, but there is no distinction in and of itself. So then it comes back to actual ancestry. And what the Scots have shown with the World Cup, the Scots from Scotland, how strong and embedded in self that identity is. So if you're a white American who just has Scots heritage or something else, like unless you're playing fiddle in an Appalachian band or something, so those things that could be seen as American now, either Scottish, Irish, Cajun, whatever, country music didn't get invented in the US. It comes from all these other traditions layered in with African American culture. And so there's never any respect or acknowledgement or sharing of these things. It's like we are born to rule. That's where I guess I was moving. It comes back for whites that we were born to rule. Why should we have to explain that? Right. So there's this huge abyss.
That's right. Because it's appropriation. That's the thing that they're so good at. That's the thing they've prided themselves on. But really, in the dark of the night, at the midnight hour, I would think, and my 11-year-old Erica would think, is that enough for you all? Does that feel like, and I think it's not. And I think that there are entities and powers and principalities that understand that about white people. And so they sell them things like Christian nationalism. That can be your identity, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And they're craving identity. These young men, for example, these incel men that can't get a date, can't get a girlfriend, can't get a wife, whatever. Well, then their identity is as these ugly, incel, angry, gun-toting Dylan Roof types. In Australia, I'm going to say, as an American, if I were to think of of Australian people, not Aboriginal, but Anglo-Australian, I would say stereotypes. This is stereotype. Plain spoken, hard drinking, rough and tumble, ready to fight, sporty, athletic. Now, think about it. A lot of the people who came there were deemed criminals. And I think that probably part of why I'm using those words is probably a lot of white people in Australia said, well, if that's what you're gonna, if that's who you think we are, such that you're shuttling us off to this country, well, damn it, we're gonna own it, and that's who we're gonna be, and that's
that's exactly what happened.
okay. So that's I will say, I'm not saying that it's wonderful, but I'm saying it speaks to the urge, the human urge to belong and have some sort of identity beyond just the wall of whiteness.
Right. And I'd just like to point out about why New Zealand is so different from Australia. And that's a 2-hour conversation to touch on it. But the point here is every New Zealand school child, regardless of ethnicity, learns more than one Maori haka. They would learn 20 Maori songs. They would learn 5 Maori prayers, right? And I'm talking minimum. Plenty of Pākehās, which is white New Zealanders, actually have been taught Maori and do a lot more than that. I'm talking the baseline. The redneck baseline still has all these things. And by singing and talking in that other language, which is then reinforced by the visibility of that culture, they're not as racist in the same way or scale that even white Australia is.
That makes sense. I've seen this and I've said, wait a minute, why are those white people in there? But that explains why.
But that's why. And they're proud as to be able to do that.
Yes.
They're not wrestling, with where they fit in it. They have been included and now they are part of, and it's not that everything's perfect, but the baseline is way different, is what I'm saying.
That's really interesting. Well, that's really interesting. And I think in the US, the race piece is what is the thing that makes it the most problematic, I think. The fact that you can be toothless and poor and have no shoes, but you can sleep at night with pride in your heart because at least, like a Rockefeller, you're white. That is a bill of goods somebody sold somebody.
Yep, it sure is. And particularly, I think in these times of financial strain and stress, when that's all that's left,
right,
that's when people find out it's not enough.
Right.
When money's flowing and you can console yourself with endless consumer goods and things, you're not thinking so much in deep racial terms. Just, I can buy that, I can do this, I can do that. But when the crunch is on, that's when they deflect most to these positions that are ungenerous and dated and unproductive in every way.
This is one reason why, maybe the only reason why, I'm glad that who still lives and breathes and has being in the earth, because he was asked about the fact that he is billions richer since he began his second term, billions richer. So he was asked about this, like, you're billion, because of course that's not supposed to happen.
No.
What you do is say, okay, this is public service. I'll make my money after because I'll be an ex-president.
That used to be the deal, right?
Right. So now he said that. So his answer was, well, a lot of people are making money. It's crypto. And I can't, I'm good at two things. Business. Well, I don't know what his other thing was that he was saying.
And don't look at his business record.
But he's good at business. In other words, zero awareness of what that sounds like. I think this is perfect. I love that for him because there are people.
Yeah, but it's also, now we're 10 years in.
Yes.
I could forgive Trump, the failed real estate investor who caught the wave. He's the luckiest man in the bloody world, until now, in that sense. He kept getting bailed out. But my point is, I could understand him not getting it on day one. and wheat too, because he's not a political creature. But it's the fact that the guardrails and everyone else has bent the world and the foundations of American democracy. They've bent them all to accommodate his fantasy. So 10 years in, he can say that and not know why that would be a problem.
But, I don't even care about him not knowing. What I'm saying, all of that is true, and all of that absolutely has happened. But what is also seems to be happening now is people are saying, wait, what did he just say? What did he just say?
Yeah,
and my gas goes through the roof.
I think they should have been saying that a lot earlier. I remember he'd only been in 2 days or 3 days or something, and he said, all the world leaders can stay in my hotel in Washington, right? Which was a contravention of the Emoluments Clause.
Right.
So he did this right from the beginning. So I think it's really important that the enablers don't get off the hook now.
I agree.
Right?
Listen,
and I agree with you. It almost doesn't matter whether he's there or not now. And I'm in your camp. I want to see him feel the narcissistic wound of not being sought out, not being powerful. But that's the Schadenfreude in me too, relishing that. But at the same time, he could not have done all this if people hadn't been prepared to sell their souls and sell the country. And now the country is going to be left with that structure.
Right.
That's why when people write to us all the time and so forth, when's it going to end and when's he going? Wrong question. The question becomes how to deal with the corruption in his wake.
That's right. That's right. Well, you've got Mike Johnson, who has dismissed the House early because nobody's going to sign on for that SAVE Act. The felon is hell-bent on that. Mike Johnson is he is terrified of this blue wave that's coming. Terrified. And it's a beautiful thing. And I think that the more the felon puts his foot in his mouth, the more MAGA will cease to be MAGA.
Yes. And it's splintering, it's fraying, it's rusting, all the words of deterioration.
It's happening in real time.
It's happening in real time.
It really is, which is
and so I think we've got to look for, this is why it's uber important at this stage of everything, that those of us who can, and I include all our audience in this, actually start envisioning a healthier, more just future. Instead of just looking at the crisis and the crash, it's like the body of the car has to be taken to the wreckers, the road has to be cleaned up, right? And it all needs to be stripped back and made whole in a different way.
Well, I will tell you, we have said to ourselves that moving forward, we want that to be more of an emphasis in terms of what we talk about than how bad it is, and we will do that. But we're not there yet, Lena.
And not until after the July 4th, and probably not until closer to the midterms.
Right. So speaking of July 4th, we have had the Supreme Court. They always start their vacation, in July. So we knew there were going to be a bunch of decisions coming down. We were all delighted to hear that E. Jean Carroll, that they refused to hear the case. I don't know what took them so long to say that, but the felon has asked that they re-look at it anyway. They're not going to do that. He's going to have to pay up. So that's great. There are a couple of other big decisions, but the birthright citizenship is the one that I think is worth having a conversation about in the context of the holiday. So today, they have said that birthright citizenship will remain the law of the land, meaning that children born to foreign parents, but if they're born in the United States, they are U.S. citizens. The right is losing its mind. They're talking about putting a sheet over the Statue of Liberty, who says, give me your tired, your poor, your huddled masses yearning to be free. It's very interesting. We have J.D. Vance saying that his Catholic teachings, and of course he's only been Catholic for a hot minute, but that's okay.
Yeah.
His Catholic teachings have taught him that immigration into America by foreigners who don't share our culture, meaning aren't white, is a bad thing. Listen, I went to divinity school. I have a master's in divinity. I don't remember that in any book I read, any version of the Bible, any concordance, any commentary, any analysis. It's not a thing, but they tell themselves it's a thing. And I think when you're a wall, back to that analogy, you can tell yourself a lot of things to justify being a wall. And so I wanted to bring us back just for a minute to 1852. To the words of Frederick Douglass. Frederick Douglass had been born, of course, a slave, and he was asked in 1852 to give and 1852 is not 1865, so we don't have emancipation yet, but he was asked to give a keynote address at an Independence Day celebration, and he entitled it, "What to the Slave is the 4th of July." And I just wanted to read a little bit and do some commentary in between, just to make the case, because his point is, the founders, and I agree with him, were great men. I want to say great and good, but I'm going to just leave it at great. Great men in a kind of a savant kind of way. We had all those musicians that
they were extraordinary intellects. Let's give them that.
They came in as a cohort, it feels like.
Yes, right? Yes.
It's amazing to think of the physics of that. And, that could be a whole nother conversation. They were brilliant. So this is what he says. "Fellow citizens, I am not wanting in respect for the fathers of the Republic." In other words, I respect them. "The signers of the Declaration of Independence were brave men. They were great men too, great enough to give frame to a great age. It does not often happen to a nation to raise at one time such a number of truly great men." All of that's true. He knows where he is. He's giving a 4th of July speech.
Yeah.
"The point from which I am compelled to view them is not certainly the most favorable, and yet I cannot contemplate their, see, don't do this to me. Yet I cannot contemplate their great deeds with less than admiration. They were statesmen, patriots, and heroes, and for the good they did and the principles they contended for, I will unite with you to honor their memory." I want to say a word about that. What is new and different and fresh about what these men did was that they gave us the documents that are just transcendent in their eloquence about the rights and the sanctity of the human being. I mean, you can't get better than that. I don't know, maybe Magna Carta or whatever, but they gave us those documents. So no shade. "Fellow citizens, pardon me, allow me to ask, why am I called upon here to speak today? What have I or those I represent to do with your national independence? Are the great principles of political freedom and of natural justice embodied in that Declaration of Independence extended to us? And am I therefore called upon to bring our humble offering to the national altar and to confess the benefits and express devout gratitude for the blessings resulting from your independence? Would to God, both for your sakes and ours, that an affirmative answer could be truthfully returned to these questions." I wish I could get up here and say, I love the Declaration of Independence, and what I really love the most is that what goes for you goes for me. I wish I could say that.
Yes. Yes, nothing wrong with the...
I would love to be able to do that.
The sentiment.
Then would my task be light, and my burden easy and delightful. For who is there so cold that a nation's sympathy could not warm him? Who so obdurate and dead to the claims of gratitude that would not thankfully acknowledge such priceless benefits? Who so stolid and selfish that would not give his voice to swell the hallelujahs of a nation's jubilee when the chains of servitude had been torn from his limbs? I am not that man. In a case like that, the dumb might eloquently speak and the lame man leap as a hart. Who wouldn't be thrilled to celebrate this kind of holiday? Who wouldn't? But, he says, such is not the state of the case. I say it with a sad sense of the disparity between us. I am not included within the pale of glorious anniversary. Your high independence only reveals the immeasurable distance between us. The blessings in which you this day rejoice are not enjoyed in common. The rich inheritance of justice, liberty, prosperity, and independence bequeathed by your fathers is shared by you, not by me. The sunlight that brought light and healing to you has brought stripes and death to me. This 4th of July is yours, not mine. You may rejoice. I must mourn. This, by the way, is why Black people celebrate Juneteenth. As you know, we celebrate the 4th with family and stuff like that. But it's why we're not all rah-rah. And I'm saying this was in 1852. We are now in 2026.
Yes. Yes.
And the message could still be the same. We have these documents. We have the independent, what do you call it? Declaration of Independence. We have the Constitution. And then we have people like Mike Johnson and Vance saying, yeah, we have those, but that they in fact did not apply to anybody who is not white and male. That's what it means to be an originalist, like on the court.
Yes, yes. I want to share a comment here from a viewer, Erica. I never ever felt like celebrating 4th of July, especially after seeing slave children's fingerprints on the bricks of Thomas Jefferson's house. Those were my relatives. Understand that.
Right.
So
how can you, if you are the wall and everybody else's art that you've appropriated, you can understand the reticence to say, let me take this wall apart brick by brick and do a meta-analysis of it. Let me look myself as the wall in the face and examine who I am. Who could do that and stand? But it is the thing that white people have to do.
Yes. And returning to the founding fathers, and it's not accidental, they're fathers. Many of them, or at least a good number of them, were not go to church every Sunday type Christians.
No.
They were deists and other much more quirky things. They really questioned God as well as religion, and why this is the disconnect between MAGA and, I would say, the majority of Americans' idea of their own foundation compared with the reality.
They'll tell you it's a Christian nation founded on
Absolutely. And I think it's important that we never miss an opportunity to point out. I think is it the Declaration of Independence, I think, only had under God added in the 50s.
Right.
And the money in God we trust, which is lunacy to the rest of the world. We've always held our sides and rolled on the floor laughing about the American dollar bill. But it only came about in the 50s too, because the government at the time was trying to counter the communists, the red evil of Russia. So suddenly God was everywhere. But you ask the average American, they will swear that has been there since the beginning. Right. No, The country was founded on the freedom of religion
Right.
and the freedom from religion.
That's right.
And part two gets forgotten continuously. And the
On
separation
purpose.
of church and state isn't even up for discussion,
Right.
in so
Right.
many states. We've
Right.
gone backwards. We've
Right.
gone back.
We have. And
Mm.
when you think about why and whose purpose that serves, whose interests that serves,
Mm.
It's clear. And I listen. I think that you mentioned the communist thing. One of Mike Johnson's little taglines is that the Democratic Socialists are communists, etc. When I was a little girl in the 60s, I remember we had fallout shelters, signs on the wall, like if they dropped a
I can
bomb.
still remember them in New York when I was there in the 70s. I'm going,
Yeah,
"Wow."
we did drills when I was very small under the
Yeah.
desk, like you dive under your. And I also remember a song that we used to sing that was the tune was Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, but
Mhm.
the words were Khrushchev, the bald-headed Russian, had a very shiny head. And if you ever saw him, you would even call him Red. And we had this little song that we would sing, right? But so this was at the height of the Cold War.
Yeah.
And okay, but here's the thing. That was a long time ago. Like I said, I'm at the end of this month, I'm going to be 70. I am so excited to be 70. I can't even tell you, because as I wrote in my Substack article, it's you're at least, you can't deny, you're on the lip of old age. Okay. And so I've lived a long time and I've seen a lot of things, and I remember that Khrushchev era, but it's a long time ago. When you say the word communist or socialist to a young person, they're like, well, it's definitely not communist, so put that to the side. But let's talk about socialists for a minute. What is the problem with socialized medicine? What is the problem with everybody having healthcare? What is the problem with a guaranteed minimum
Basic
income? What is the problem with college being free? Why is that? Why do we have this disparity in income where we've got trillionaires and nobody, people with nothing? And how is it that the people with nothing and a little bit more pay the most taxes and the trillionaires pay nothing? What's going to happen is that these people, we can laugh and joke and pat them on the head now, but they're growing up. They're going to have a vote. And they're going to see, there's a poll. My partner was telling me there was some poll taken of millennials, and they were asked what kind of career would they prefer to have? Something that makes them a lot of money so that they can live a good life, or a career that helps people. And overwhelmingly, the answer was a career that helps people. So that, we have this expression, Black people, we say, they not like us. These young people, they not like us. I mean, they like us, but they're not like, And I think we're seeing the shift happen in real time, with Mamdani, with AOC, with people like that. And I think it's exciting. I think we are on the cusp of a new revolutionary era, and that all of this old way of thinking looks as dumb as it is.
But that's exactly where I was going to chip in. I think it's already happened, but only in the last 5 minutes.
Yes.
Since of course, Bernie paved the way for AOC, and AOC on one level paved the way for Mamdani, and that's how it works, right? Beto O'Rourke paved the way for Tallarico, in my opinion.
Right. No, that's true.
That's how it happens. Sorry, what did you just say? And I want
what your point was is that it's already happening. We're already.
Oh, yes. So now I think we're going to see this delicious shift where the other side is going to have to defend why that isn't decent, why that isn't fair. I think we've already got to that point, or we're right at it, compared with even a year ago.
Even a year ago, yes. And so when we ask ourselves, why are we being tortured this way? Why we wake up in the morning and we're like, what fresh hell has been wrought for such a time as this? This is the great dismantling, the clearing out, the looking at what that is to looking at the wall, right? And I think maybe we are starting to see some of the rebuild even before the dismantling has happened.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Something to celebrate on Saturday, I think.
Yes, absolutely. And I think in terms of Native American, there's a comment here, Native Americans were not included in the All Men Created Equal. We were referred to as merciless savages. Exactly.
Right.
So the Australian Aboriginal situation is much more like the Native American situation than like the African American situation because of the how history panned out.
Here. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and so Aboriginal people were forced into missions like the reservations, like literally segregated, but in a different way than city segregation, but in a major way.
Right.
And so Australia Day, where we're supposed to celebrate handing out cholera-infected blankets to the Indigenous population and whatever else we're supposed to celebrate. And I've always attended for the last 60 years the Aboriginal version of that, which is Survival Day and concerts, but in celebration, because for many years it was the day of mourning. There is still a day of mourning. But this is the celebration of survival and culture at this point in time. And I think that is so important as an acknowledgement of what's gone on, you know.
It is.
And a lot of people go to the alternative celebration. It gives you somewhere to go.
But that's good that it exists, and it's good that people go. I mean, you have Juneteenth, which even the felon was like, I don't think we should have Charlie Kirk. Bless him. I hope he's on a better path than the one he was on.
Yeah.
But I'm going to say, I saw a video of him in a car. He gets in a car and he says, so it's Juneteenth. And I don't think that should be a holiday. So I'm not going to say happy Juneteenth. I'm off to work. Well, where are you now, Charlie? But anyway, I think when white people step off the wall in their wall outfit and look at themselves, that's the beginning. I think that can be the beginning of healing. Until you're willing to do that.
Look, exactly. And I'll just share a little current Australian story because it's very relevant to this. Our MAGA, One Nation, they always have that patriotic.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah.
Patriotic face, right? Pauline Hanson, hideous woman from my home state of Queensland. So I know the mentality.
Did you freeze?
And
she froze. Wait,
she spent 30 years moaning and groaning about Asians, and then 9/11, and then 9/11. So she had to shift from Asians to being anti-Muslim.
You froze, Lena.
Okay, am I back? Back?
You're back now, and you started out by talking about this hideous woman, but then you need to tell us again.
Yeah, okay. So Pauline Hanson. So she spent 20 or 30 years being profoundly racist towards Asians. And then 9/11 happened and she had to shift over and never mentions Asians now. It's all anti-Muslim stuff. You know?
Okay.
And she actually has come out in the last 2 weeks and said, there is no such thing as a good Muslim.
Oh, good to know. Okay.
That's a really smart thing to say, Pauline, in any context. Anyway, where I was going with all that, the Socceroos, our soccer guys, right? There's probably 2 Anglos in there. The rest are from Serbia, Croatia, Botswana, Bhutan. Like Australia is a very multicultural. A third of Australians are either born overseas or of parents, first generation born in Australia. So she's up against reality. Anyway, because of the Socceroos, and they've done a very good promotion on our television, all from their different backgrounds.
Good.
And going, and we are all Socceroos. So she was asked, Where do you put that, Pauline, in your worldview? All these immigrants who are in, and the ones who are winning,
Right.
I think she said, "Oh well, they're all wearing the same uniform." Well, exactly, Pet. She's just cut her own throat in terms of an argument. You know what I mean? Like, that's the
Yes,
point. People
that's the
join the
point.
Australian Army, people pay Australian taxes, people wear the uniform.
Because they're
It's just they
Australian.
have other lives, but they are proud also to be new Australians and have wanted to
Right.
come here and all of that stuff. So I found that a revelation in terms of that's all she could do in her head, but at the same time, she undermined her whole position.
Well, this is what happened. And this is what happens. And I think this is what a lot of the Republicans are doing. They're undermining their own positions in the eyes of their own followers. It's a joy
Yes.
to watch happen in real time, I have to say.
Yes, yes. And in terms of actual franchise and voting, in the sense when all the founding fathers were sprouting this, wonderful wordage, and women didn't have the vote as well as
Yeah.
blacks. And in Australia, Aboriginal people didn't have the vote till 1967,
Mhm.
like 5 minutes ago.
Right.
But this is how Australia's changed and gone to the right. In the 1967 referendum, should Aboriginal people be given the vote?
Mhm.
93% said yes. 93, right? That's massive.
Good.
And then came the good years comparatively of things. Now, that result would be 35%.
Right. Right.
Right?
Yeah.
We have gone backwards too.
But
I mean,
again,
that's quite
think about
extraordinary
it's
at
my
the time.
it's my 11-year-old self
Yes.
saying with sympathy and with pity, frankly, I get why that is. Because who could stand in the face of that meta awareness? Who could stand?
Mm.
Who could, like, so I mean, it's got to be existential torture. And I think so.
Oh, I don't know that it's like saying Trump might be worried by X, Y, and Z. No, he doesn't worry because he
No,
doesn't
no,
think.
but that's what I'm saying. That's the old because well, he's a whole he's just he's who he is. But
Sorry, I distracted from your point.
yeah, well,
Are they in a state of existential
I don't know. That's the thing.
angst or not?
I think
I wonder.
they will do everything they can to avoid being in that
Yes,
existential state of angst.
yes,
It will be the wall until the wall crumbles. They're
yes.
happy to be the wall and appropriate all the art because the alternative is to feel that existential angst. But it's like cleaning out a wound. You have to clean out a wound. You can't just slap a band-aid on it and say, let's
That's right. You've
fancy
got
by.
to clean it out.
And that's painful. I mean, so painful it could make you go unconscious from the pain. I get that.
Yes,
I get
yes,
that. But it's the only way to healing. It's the only way to healing. And we can't
yes.
do it for anybody. That's the other thing.
And if it hadn't been this bad, it would have been put off for another 50 or 100 years.
Right. So,
You know.
I really am I am of the opinion that the felon's sole contract was to come here and do exactly what he's done, to give people this opportunity to say, oh, we are the wall. and maybe that's not so good. And how can we be different? That's what I think. That's why I think he's at the end of his contract. That's why you see his life force draining from him.
Yes, he's done it.
Purpose.
What he set out to do, he's done it.
And so it's the
And
rest.
now we're virtually in a post-Trump world.
Right. So now what? I mean, he is almost incidental at this point. So moving forward from July, whenever we meet again next week.
Yeah, what'll have been just on the other side.
We're going to start looking at the pockets and the places where there is rebuild happening, even as the dismantling is still taking place.
Yeah.
So, and as you all find examples of that, please send them our way, because Mamdani, of course, is an example. AOC is an example. Here's something interesting. Mike McConnell. Apparently, he was found unconscious in his home.
Mitch McConnell. Yes.
What did I call him? Mitch McConnell, yes. Turtle Man. He was found unconscious in his home in the middle of June, taken to a hospital for critical care. Nobody's heard from him since. And I think that there's a reason. And I don't think the reason is, I think the reason is that he comes from the state of Kentucky.
Mm-hmm.
Kentucky has a Democratic governor, Andy Beshear. If you recall, audience, Andy Beshear was one of the ones in the running for the vice presidential nomination in this last election. Andy Beshear is the guy who gets to pick the next representative should Mitch no longer be able to serve. And so I think, I don't know, I know he was unconscious. He might be about the same kind of unconscious that we all eventually will be he could be that kind of unconscious.
And yes, or literally on life support.
Yeah. And nobody's telling us anything.
Yep.
But that will be another watershed moment when Andy Beshear picks McConnell's replacement, because we're talking about Kentucky, for goodness sake.
Yeah. And thanks to the tariffs being basically, a one product state in the sense of Kentucky bourbon,
right,
falling through the floor.
Right.
The Democrats have to, push the pain button again every time they go out in terms of what the tariffs are doing. Like everything in the tumult, the actual beginning gets forgotten.
Right.
And the tariffs are destroying states.
Right.
Certain states are extremely vulnerable. Right. New York State will be fine, even Florida and other things in California, and despite the case. But I think it's smallest red states are going to the wall.
Yes. Well, so you're right. I mean, the Democrats, as I see it, have a twofold job. And again, we were going to start looking at how they're doing this twofold job, whether they're doing it, how we can help them do it. One job is exactly what you said: remind people of the pain points that have been created by this administration and how important it is to get them out. The other thing that the Democrats have to do is stop the infighting. They have to not do what Nancy Pelosi did to the Squad when the Squad came in, which was to bench.
Which is exactly what they're doing.
That's what they're doing.
That's what they're doing.
That's right.
I'd go a step further. I think I don't want to see them just Band-Aid over. I think they need a bloodletting behind the scenes, right? Yeah, in private, go hard, thrash it out over 3 days,
right,
and come up with a position,
right,
rather than just jump in, because it's very, 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 very destructive what she was able to do with the Squad. And it's only because she's bowed out finally that Mamdani could rise, but they wouldn't support him for a second.
No. So this is something that, when we look at and we think about what can we as Americans do, this is where you put pressure on your representatives, right? I mean, this is where young people who are saying, this is not communism we're talking about. We're talking about human rights and human decency and fairness, and hopefully the old guard will get on board. That remains to be seen.
But yes, I'm not entirely convinced.
No, if they don't get on board, that's fine, because there will come a time when they're swept out of the way.
But I think it's good timing in the sense there's still 2 years to the next big one. We have to assume and have faith that the Dems, whatever that means, get over the line at the midterms, too big to rig and all of that stuff notwithstanding. Have to go. Then is when they should have the serious postmortem
Right.
on the party, and they've got 2 years to thrash it out. Well, let's say a year to thrash it out and a year to sell it,
Right.
to the
Right.
public.
Right.
So the timing's sort of okay in that sense, I think. But they
Well,
have to do it. It is a different era. It
yeah,
requires a different response, and it requires a different leadership.
that's right. Well, I think that's coming, like it or not. I like it.
Yes,
And
I
so
like it
get on
too.
board. Listen, everybody, we are a minute after 7. That happens when we get together. But thank you all so much for being with us, and have a
Thanks.
great Fourth, however you
However
celebrate
you
that,
choose
however
to
you
spend it.
remember it. And think of Frederick Douglass. He was a great man who told truth to power. And Lena, you and I will be back again next week. What were you going to
We
say?
will, on the other side of the Fourth.
On the other side of the Fourth. Yes. All right, everybody. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.